Welcome to Beyond the Press Release. This is a production of Agoracom. I'm your host, Alan Barry Labucan. I'm the Chief Market Commentator at Agoracom. And in this show, what we try to do is we look for good companies that have had some news out, and we look a little bit deeper into what was in the press release discussing the news that they had out. And on today's show, we have a special guest in Ken Armstrong. Ken is the president and CEO of North Arrow Minerals. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Well, thanks, Alan. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. And North Arrow Minerals is currently, they've had two news releases out not too recently. I'm going to talk about the latter one first, and then we'll get on to the most recent one. The latter one was from their Kilalugak project in Nunavut. They have some known kimberlites up there, and they're doing some larger bulk samples, mini bulk samples. I'm not sure what they're called these days. We'll get into that. So, Ken, tell us a little bit about Kilalugak.
Well, yeah, thanks. It's it's really what I would characterize as our most important project this year, just because it is the most advanced. And as you mentioned, it's an area where there's a number of kimberlites that are known in Nunavut. The kimberlites are located just outside of the hamlet of Repulse Bay, and of the kimberlites that were discovered originally by BHP in the early 2000s, they found 7 of these bodies, and the largest one, quite fortuitously, happens to be the highest grade kimberlite in terms of diamond content, and it's also the closest kimberlite to Repulse Bay, and that's really important. We have an inferred level resource on this kimberlite of just over 48 million tons that grade just over a ½ carat per ton. So it's quite a large kimberlite, and that only takes it down to about 200 meters depth.
How many million tons did you say?
Just over 48 million tons. Grading.
To put that into the context of what the Northwest Territories kimberlites, most of those are in the 4 to 7 million tons type kimberlites.
Correct.
So this is quite large if you put it into NWT context.
Yeah, it is the largest diamond-bearing kimberlite in the Eastern Arctic. It's over 12.5 hectares in size. The typical Lac de Gras kimberlites tended to be around 1 hectare to 2 hectares, maybe up to 5 or so. But of course, the flip side on that is grade, and the Lac de Gras kimberlites are incredibly rich in terms of their grade, often well over 1 carat per ton, whereas we're looking at a grade that's in the neighborhood of a ½ carat per ton.
Now, how much work had you done to determine that ½ carat per ton? How big of a sample?
That's based on work that was done by BHP and our partner on the project, Stornoway Diamonds. So where North Arrow fits in is Stornoway presently has 100% interest in the project, and now North Arrow is working to earn up to an 80% interest by funding the collection of a bulk sample of at least 1,000 tons, and that's what we can chat about that a bit. But that's the program that's underway right now. The work that BHP completed, they in about 39 drill holes, they completed around 7,000 meters of drilling on the Q1-4 kimberlite. Stornoway supplemented that with some surface pit sampling from a portion of the body where they collected just over 20 tons of kimberlite to get an evaluation, well, not an evaluation of the diamonds, but to get a handle on the diamond content.
And the diamond distribution curve.
Yeah, and so there is as I mentioned, we have the inferred level resource that we restated in the spring of 2013. That is available on our website, and so that's based on that exploration data set. The current parcel of diamonds we have from that work is about 64 carats in total, so it's not a very big parcel. It's enough to give us an idea of grade distribution at an inferred level throughout the body, but it's not big enough to give us an indication of what the diamonds might be worth. And that, of course, when we talk about a diamond deposit, is that third leg of the stool that you need. You need to know your tons, how big is the kimberlite. You need to have an idea of what the grade is and how many carats per ton you can expect. But then that third part is figuring out what sort of average value per carat can we expect And that's the big difference with diamonds, as you know, versus say a gold deposit or a copper deposit, is figuring
Yes.
out an evaluation, and that leads us to
Not
this year's
all
program.
diamonds are created equal, Ken. That's
No, no,
to do those bigger stone evaluations.
that's right, and so that's where this year's program comes in. We're in the process and of collecting a 1,500-ton bulk sample from Q1 to 4. We're really taking advantage of the location of the kimberlite being near town. We don't need a camp. We have no exploration camp. We're staying in the hamlet of Repulse Bay, and the crews fly out to the site. It's only 9 kilometers north of town.
Wow.
So we fly out to the site. We're collecting the sample with a little mini excavator right from surface in a series of trenches, filling 1-ton megabags and slinging those to town. And though that 1,500-ton sample will then get shipped south to our laboratory on the annual sea lift when it arrives in Repulse Bay at the end of August.
Now that brings up a question for me, Ken. In regards to was there any difference in what the kimberlite looks at surface relative to as they drilled into those kimberlites?
In terms of visually, the real change you see is right at surface. The kimberlite can be more sort of clay altered or weathered. It can be softer, and that's why we can get away with doing the sample with a simple excavator and no blasting is required. The kimberlite does get harder as you go deeper, but that doesn't affect. It's not been weathered to the effect where part of the rock has been washed away. It's an in situ weathering that's happening, and just more of a clay alteration. So the rock is competent kimberlite. You can see the in situ textures of the rock. Any diamonds that would be there would still be there. It's just softer and easier to sample. We need to get diamonds for valuation, so we're doing this
So
because
there's not any worry of country rock dilution or anything like that when you're doing this sample.
no, I think our expectation is that there'll be no effect on the overall diamond grade. If anything, you'd end up with an enrichment, and that's something that we're taking into account with the sample as we process it and we bag it, and we obviously log it, not quite the same way you would log a drill hole, but we're evaluating the kimberlite as we sample it. But the real critical thing for us is getting diamonds for valuation. So,
Absolutely.
we'll end up with a sample grade. In our view, that number isn't necessarily important. We have a resource grade that's already been determined based on the exploration work so far that encompasses the entire kimberlite. What we need to do is get a parcel of, we're targeting 500 carats of diamonds to get an indication of what the diamonds might be worth. A couple of other good questions, though. Of course, we're taking it from a series of pits from a very localized area and a 12-hectare kimberlite, and it's coming from surface, which is something I think that you were just getting at. So those are good questions in terms of what is our comfort that the diamonds that we get would be representative from the remainder of the body. And I think our level of comfort is reasonable. When we look at the evaluation at an inferred level right now, what we can say from the resource modeling that was done is as part of that current resource, we modeled the grade distribution in depth slices of 100 meters, so the top 100 meters, then the second 100 meters, and then we even took it to the next 100 meters below the current resource, and there is no real demonstrable grade variation as we do that. And the grade is very similar amongst as we go through the area of the kimberlite as well. So again, I say at an inferred level because that's the level of evaluation we're at, and there would obviously be a lot more work required going forward. But at an inferred level, we're quite comfortable that getting this parcel of diamonds will give us an indication of do these diamonds have value, and is it worth carrying on with this, or is the value not there? Because we think if the value is there, based on the location of the kimberlite so close to the coast, the size of it, and its grade, that it immediately becomes a development track project.
So it sounds to me like this was one event kind of blow that created this kimberlite. If you're not seeing any variable in the grades as you're stepping out into the kimberlite, doesn't sound like there's multiple phases to this kimberlite, which is usually the case in a larger kimberlite.
Yeah, there are multiple phases. There's 5 phases that have been logged so far, but when we look at that's sort of the geological logging and describing what the geologists have seen evaluating the kimberlite. when we look at the diamond population, or the diamonds we've seen from each of those phases so far, I think it's important that the 3 of those phases, including the one that we're sampling, were treated identically in terms of the resource estimate. The diamond population was considered the same, and that accounts for about 3/4 of the volume of the resource. And then there are 2 other smaller phases that are both hypobyssal kimberlites, so magmatic phases. One has a slightly higher grade, and one has a slightly lower grade. But again, the diamond parcels, though, that have been looked at by the experts that we've used, in general, it's not a very big parcel of diamonds, as we've talked about, but the diamonds look like they're all of the same nature.
Good. Well, that's great. Thanks for giving us an update on that project. The one that I want to talk more about today, Ken, is your Redemption project. Now, this is a joint venture with Arctic Star. Arctic Star has a banner on my website, so that's my disclosures out of the way. Just describe first of all the deal you have with Arctic Star.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we took an option. The project is Arctic Star's. They've worked quite diligently over the last number of years, evaluating this area of Lac de Gras and identifying the Redemption project area as being highly prospective. And we took an option in July of last year, in 2013, to earn a 55% interest by funding the next $5 million of exploration. And so we started that by funding an airborne gravity survey that was flown last year, a data compilation, some follow-up bathymetry surveys, and some till sampling of our own. And then we conducted a ground geophysical survey this spring, so in April and May of 2014, and then that led to the identification of targets that we're just mobilizing a drill to right now to test what we think are the highest priority, best looking targets on the property. Good.
And what again was the you guys are earning how much again of that project?
We'll earn 55% by funding the next $5 million.
$5 million, okay. And I've been following sort of this project for a long time. I've been following Arctic Star's efforts in Credit Lake and you know, all the sampling that they had done on the surface to follow those try to follow those indicator minerals back to the source of where they came from. And I think late in their program, after drilling a bunch of targets, they realized that the source of those indicator minerals on surface likely came from off of their ground. They had to stealthily wait for for the opportunity to stake it, I believe, and acquire that ground. And it's pretty exciting to see that you know, anytime you have the potential of finding unsourced diamond indicator minerals in the Lac de Gras region of Canada, of the Northwest Territories, is very exciting. I'm sure that's what got you guys interested.
Absolutely, it was. As you just mentioned, I mean, it's essentially it's a head frame exploration where the best place to look for a deposit, regardless of commodity, is in an area where deposits have already been found. And at Lac de Gras, with the Ekati and Diavik mines, got 2 of the richest diamond deposits in the world, and this is a great place to be exploring. And absolutely, Arctic was very patient. They traced this train, hit sort of a claim boundary, waited for the properties to the east to come open, staked them. Acquired a slightly larger area through a deal with another company to create the Redemption project area, and now through the work that we've done together, I think we can clearly demonstrate that the indicators are cut off on the property, and we have targets that are right at the head of that train. And so you like to look at the most logical, straightforward answer and explanation for that cutoff would be that there's a bedrock kimberlite source on the property, and that's what we hope to. We hope to come up with a positive answer to that in the next 4 weeks or so.
Yes, I'm hopeful as well. I mean, I've been in the diamond business for a long time as an analyst and as a consultant to publicly traded diamond companies, so I understand the challenge of diamond exploration, and I'm really cheering for you guys because I like that name, Redemption. You know, sometimes in the diamond business you can feel like Don Quixote. They're out there, screaming at windmills or whatever. But they've done they've done a lot of the hard work. Now you guys have joined in that hard work. Again, just for the audience, explain a little bit about how you came up with those drill targets, Ken.
Well, yeah, as mentioned, there was the airborne gravity survey was flown. It is a newer technology, one that's been refined over the last 10 to 15 years, and based on that survey, we came up with a series of targets. You often do. You get anomalies out of geophysical surveys. We followed up.
For the audience so they know what the gravity anomaly is all about. There's a difference in the specific gravity of your kimberlite and your country rock, and if you're with the quality of airborne gravity now, it's helped in a long way to finding these type of targets. You can get in electronic mag surveys, you can get a lot of false positives, but if you've got a good contrast between the country rock and the kimberlite, it should show up quite nicely as a target.
Yeah, exactly. It's another tool, and it's one that hadn't been utilized in this area yet. It's very similar to magnetic surveys, gravity surveys, electromagnetic surveys. All of them in diamond exploration, you're looking for, as you said, contrast between the country rock and the kimberlite, whatever that contrast might be, because the kimberlites are volcanoes that intruded into the crust, into whatever rock happened to already be there. And so, yes, with gravity, we're looking for a density contrast between the kimberlite and whatever it intruded into. Things like lakes can be a complicating factor, because water, if there's a deep lake, then water is not as dense as the surrounding country rock. So you need to take those effects into account when processing and evaluating the data. And that's why we do things like bathymetry surveys that we completed last fall to get that information of how deep are the lakes. And then you can put that into your model and account for the water's presence, which then allows you to better refine your targets. So we went through that process. We revisited the historic geophysical data sets that were available, and there was quite a few. There's been a lot of work done in this area, just very, very little drilling. And through that evaluation, we've come up with about 8 or so land-based targets that we can test right now. And they're a good selection of gravity-only targets, sort of semi-coincident gravity magnetic targets, some magnetic, electromagnetic targets, kind of classic Lac de Gras type geophysical targets. So it's a very good selection. And the ones that we've chosen to drill in this program are all located basically within about a 7.5 or 8 kilometer diameter circular area that sits right at the head of the South Coppermine kimberlite indicator mineral train, which is the train of indicator minerals that Arctic has been chasing for all these years.
Go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
Yeah, and so we focused on targets that are at the head of the train, because that's sort of the logic of the whole exploration model for kimberlites in this area. Is you chase a train, when it gets cut off, there should be a bedrock source. So you're looking for the targets that most likely could represent the kimberlite bedrock source at the head of the train, and that's what we're trying to do with the current drilling program.
So in a nutshell, you guys have sort of used those indicator minerals to trace it back to where you potentially have a source based on gravity and other geophysical testing surveys. And so what's the current program, Ken?
So the current program is it's a very modest one. It's a single drill. It's being mobilized presently up to our camp, and should be set up on the first target in the next couple of days. And we've set about 1,000 meters. It's kimberlite exploration. So if you hit kimberlite, then you keep on drilling and you get more meterage. If you don't, then you move on to the next target. I'd characterize the targets we have as being really quite good, and it is, as I mentioned, a real mix of them. And each of them is sort of equally likely or to possibly be a kimberlite. So we need to methodically make our way through those targets. Ultimately, we're successful and we find kimberlite, then we maybe put a second or third hole into anything that we hit. But we're looking at about a 4-week window to drill these targets and see what we can come up with.
Well, it's always an exciting time anytime you're putting a hole in the ground and looking for kimberlite. I've had the experience of working with a company that we fortunately did drill into diamond-bearing kimberlite, so I know how exciting that is. The office, the guys, everybody must be pretty excited over there at North Arrow and at the Arctic Star guys.
Yeah, and I mean we're hoping we can replicate what we managed to do last summer in our PQ project in Saskatchewan. We're using the exact same methodology and exploration plan. We with our partner Stornoway in that case discovered diamond-bearing kimberlites in Saskatchewan at PQ, and it's the exact same idea: testing targets at the head of an indicator mineral train. It's kind of textbook stuff, and it's nice when it works out. So hopefully, in this case, we can repeat that.
And you have a very strong team with a lot of experience in diamond exploration on with North Arrow and with Arctic Star, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reality of with our company, a funny story. Buddy Doyle, who was vice president with Arctic Star, he actually hired me for my first job at Diavik, and so we worked together there. And Gren Thomas is the chairman of North Arrow, and he was, of course, the president of Aber Resources, who's the joint venture partner, is now Dominion Diamonds at Diavik. Ira Thomas is an advisor, and we've got a sort of a real roster of consultants and experienced employees that we're using. But it's kind of the reality in the exploration space right now. There aren't that many companies. The companies that are still active have good, solid management for the most part, people who understand the space and have been able to stick it out. And that's the one, I think, exciting thing for the space right now is that there's a few companies with some quite good projects that are evaluating them in a very logical and an appropriate way.
Yeah, as someone who follows the industry closely and tries to focus on the quality, regardless of what commodity I'm looking at, I like what you had to say there. There's more enthusiasm towards diamond exploration and development right now, but what I really like is what you said about the quality people and the quality, have been consolidated down to a small group of companies that are really serious about the business, and that makes it a whole lot easier for me as an analyst trying to cover the industry, Ken, in that I don't have to separate stock promoters and those that are trying to, more interested in what their stock does because they're involved with diamonds than actually trying to find diamonds. And I do agree with you completely that things have consolidated down. There's only a handful, maybe two handfuls of companies that are serious about it, and most of the best people in the industry are working with those people, and I'm really enthusiastic about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good time, and it's what we try to do with North Arrow and bringing together a group of people that have a lot of successful experience in the industry and exploration and development experience, with some projects that we identified as being highly prospective with a very clear evaluation path to move them forward. And we're luckily in this environment able to finance that work and move these projects along. So we're right in the heart of it now with our work in Saskatchewan at PQ, but especially the drilling coming up at Redemption and the bulk sample up at Repulse Bay at Killalugak. There are three very serious, legitimate shots at not the discovery in the case of Redemption and possibility of moving into the development phase at Killalugak.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap things up too, Ken. You guys are very busy. I want to thank you for coming to doing the show today to give our audience a good understanding of what's going on at North Arrow Minerals. So thanks a lot for that, Ken.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks very much, Alan. I appreciate the invitation and the chance to come on and talk to you about it. I enjoyed it.
And we'll definitely we'll want to talk to you again after you get some more of these results in.
Fantastic. I look forward to that.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely be giving you a call there, Ken. I want to end the show now, and as always, before making any investment decisions, it's important for you to do your homework and speak with your financial advisors. As I said earlier, we've had the pleasure of having Ken Armstrong, President and CEO of North Arrow Minerals, on the show. Check out their website. Give their investor relations person, Nick Thomas, a call. He's really great at helping people find the information that they need. And do your homework on North Arrow. I like what they're doing. I like the potential. They're doing things the right way. And I'm looking forward to the results from the work that they're doing right now. On that note, you have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.